This seance was recorded on the 21st of March, 1967, Mediumhurst at Flint.
You say that I was narrow-minded.
No, dear, I said you were not. It was our friend Leslie who said that. Oh, I'm glad he caught you.
I don't think anyone could say that I was narrow-minded.
No.
I had fairly strong views in certain directions, some of which I admit now that, well, they were not quite what I thought, but still, nevertheless, I don't think I was narrow-minded.
No, I found you a delightful companion, dear. I loved listening to you talk.
Well, I had good and strong views, yes.
You used to talk at some length, and I used to just sit, you know, like a little daisy under it. Oh, I enjoyed it. It seems wonderful that you've come back so near an old home to speak to me now after you're dead, doesn't it?
You mean Bayswater?
Yes.
Yes. That takes us back a few years, doesn't it?
Yes.
When you were very young.
Yes.
Quite a girl, weren't you?
Yes, I suppose so. Well, I was thinking of your old home near here.
Yes, well, that was when I was very young.
Yes.
The house still there.
Oh, yes, yes.
A long time ago, isn't it?
But I think they're flats now, not a house, you know.
Yes, more than likely. Of course, this was considered a very good neighborhood in those days. A very good residential neighborhood.
Yes.
And I suppose it's gone down, you know.
Well, I don't know. I enjoy coming along here.
Oh, of course, I shouldn't say that, should I? Considering Mr. Flint lives here. It was very well kept up, you know.
Yes.
It was a very good residential district, you know.
Yes.
Of course, in those days it was peaceful and quiet, just the horses and carriages.
Really? Well, there you said you'd try to give me a little preface for your second book.
Yeah.
Something embracing the idea we have lived before, we live now, we live forever. You told me that through our old friend Cherie. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
And I don't know if you feel you would like to today. I've got your interesting incarnations now to show that you have lived before you came to England.
Well, I suppose it's quite natural and human to anticipate the fact, or so it seems on the surface, that birth is the beginning of life. But at the same time, there is no evidence that man can bring forward to support the claim that birth is the beginning of life. Maybe the dawning of new experience, a new awareness, a new consciousness, a new opportunity of life under different circumstances. It is not necessarily so that birth is the beginning. In fact, we know that it is not. It is merely consciousness being reawakened or reborn into certain circumstances and conditions of life. But what is before and after so-called death. You know, death is the greatest illusion of all. People assume so much. So many people assume that after death there is nothing, oblivion. And they assume that before life begins on earth, before birth, it is oblivion. Nothing could be more untrue. Life is constant, continuous, has no beginning and no end. Rather like as if there were episodes in which you were conscious But there are, to some extent, that full realization, many aspects of life which man cannot bring to his consciousness, which are just as real, just as vital, just as important as any earthly life. There are conditions of life before birth, just the same as there are conditions of life after birth. And one physical material existence is not necessarily the be-all and the end-all. Indeed, it is only one of innumerable lives. But all these experiences are necessary and essential for the evolution and development of the human soul.
Yes.
Life, once life comes into being, it cannot be put out. You may be put out in a sense, in a physical sense or a conscious sense, physical awareness. But life itself is always there, the energizing spirit that animates the form of life as you understand it, the material body, is always present. Just because the physical body has not been born, or the physical body has not died, as you term it, doesn't alter the fact that spiritual consciousness is still waiting to have its effect and to show itself through a form of life in a physical body. I don't think anyone can realize, and I'm certain we should never be able to satisfactorily answer this or put it into such a way that it will be readily understood or accepted, but the spirit that is born into your world in a physical body doesn't suddenly become conscious and aware of new life. It is being aware and is conscious of new life, of the life that is to come in the material world, possibly for a very long time beforehand. And it may not be able to animate, or at least it cannot express itself until the physical body has reached a certain development and the brain is able to respond and react to the thought force of the spirit. The point is that the conscious spirit is always active, always alive. It only becomes individual in as much as it inhabits a body, when on earth a physical body, when on our side what you would term a psychic or spiritual body. But behind all these varying bodies and degrees of consciousness, there is the ever-living spirit, which has been and will be and will continue to be. Man must not confine his consciousness and his realization of self merely to one physical earthly existence. That is a small part of the tremendous whole of man. It's very difficult for us, indeed well nigh impossible for us to explain fully what one wishes to convey, because words in themselves are not adequate. Man has, with all his experience, with all his knowledge, with all his realization of truth, man has only got the minutest fraction or minutest particle of realization of himself. Man has this consciousness when on earth of many things appertaining to his own world in particular, and sometimes a small grasp of truth and knowledge of the world of spirit. But man will separate all these worlds. Man will always separate this consciousness of life. Man cannot conceive of the fact that the earth world is but a fraction of the real world. There are dividing lines, if you like, in a sense, but these are divisions happens only because of man's lack of apprehension or comprehension, man's lack of realization of the power of the Spirit, which is animating all life at all times on different stratas of experience and expression. And if man accepts, as he must do, his earthly existence, and man will say, well, of course we know of this existence because we're experiencing it every second, every moment of our daily lives. We know this world, we know this life which we are every day aware and conscious of, but we do not know of the world to come, if there is a world to come. So many men, even those who have religious convictions, are not very sure, very certain, or very convinced of the reality of the world to come, and yet this world, so-called to come, is here and now with you. You may not see it, you may not be conscious of it, you may not be aware of it, but there are many things which man can see certain results of, but does not know of, inasmuch that there are many aspects of his material existence which he does not understand, but which he sees the effect. In other words, because you do not see before birth, you have no consciousness of life before birth, you have no consciousness of lives previous to the one which you are now living, because you have no realization or consciousness of a world that is to come after so-called physical death, man has become, as it were, inclined to assume there is but one life. But actually, in a sense, there are many lives or many expressions of the Spirit through many physical and psychical bodies, going through aeons and aeons of what you term time, way back into the past and into the future. But then again, we know that the past and the present and the future are all one. And though there appear to be what one might call demarcation lines, there are no lines of demarcation, there are no separating conditions, only that which man himself creates through his ignorance and through his lack of understanding. When man realizes that he is an animating force under certain circumstances and conditions prevalent at that particular moment of time, which is common to him, which is natural to him, when he realizes that what is now could well have been in the past under different circumstances and will be in the so-called future under new environment and conditions. In other words, these lives are many, as indeed there are many worlds and many conditions of life. Man must not have this narrow concept that this moment is the only moment, and that which is gone is not important, and that which is to come, if there is anything to come, isn't important either. Man must see himself not as a body, not as a figure, not as a person, but a spirit which is indestructible, indefinable, but which is at all times vibrant and living with great possibilities of tremendous change. So far removed from anything you can understand or comprehend. Of course there's much that you cannot hope to understand, and we certainly can't tell you. But man should not think that this one life in which he finds himself is the be-all and the end-all, that it is the beginning and the end. It is, as it were, the small grain in the sands of experience, the sands of time, the sands of evolution. Life, by its very nature, must be continuous. It can never cease, it can never stop. All life is motion, movement, change. That in itself is life, inasmuch that once man ceased to think, ceased to comprehend, ceased revitalize himself and others like unto himself. In other words, if man himself did not, by his very nature, graduate slowly but surely from one level to another, in other words, movement, motion, this is life, the essence of life, the expressing and the learning and the gaining and the growing, all this is man. Man isn't a static thing. Anything that is static has no existence in a sense. It has no real life. It has a momentary something which has an expression of form, perhaps, and shape, but it isn't life. It isn't something which is eternal and living. It is of no consequence. But that which is man is constantly changing. He may not always be able to comprehend. He may not always be able to draw unto himself experience, as indeed perhaps he would wish. But because he cannot fully understand or comprehend does not mean that that which we strive to give is not so. There are many things you do not understand. There are many things of which you take full advantage in your world. Sometimes to man's good and sometimes to his detriment. But these powers, these forces which are in nature, which have always been there, for centuries were hidden from man. Man had not realized them. Now he benefits from them. But these things are not necessarily things that you can see as such, but you can see the effects of them. You can see the power behind them. You may not understand or fully understand and realize them, but they are forces in nature. Man is a natural animal. But at the same time, he is vitalized by a natural spirit, which by its very nature is life and indestructible. Man has such vague notions about himself, such vague ideas. Even those who profess to know certain aspects of religious conviction are oft times confused. Oft times they are, as it were, in a state of flux about the whole thing. But all their beliefs and knowledge, as they understand it, they are still afeared, still worried, still unsure, uncertain, afraid, childish, quite often in that outlook. You know, if only man can realize the immense structure of himself, which is not just a physical structure, but a spiritual one. Man, by the very nature of being a spirit, is indestructible. He is by his very nature and his very being a God in embryo. He is, as it were, blossoming out, flourishing, like a delicate plant planted in the ground that is gradually unfolding. But there are many weeds, there's a tendency to choke it, and these weeds are the weeds of ignorance and foolishness. These weeds must be plucked out, and gradually they shall be. Man will learn how to thrive. Man will learn how to express himself, how to grow in spiritual stature. He'll learn how to overcome all the worst aspects of self. The earth world is a training ground, and it has been a training ground for untold centuries of time, immemorial, untold millions upon billions of centuries have passed. Man is still learning, and has to often come back and learn more, and make good progress, but it doesn't alter the fact that the spirit all the time is expanding, is expressing, even when physical body seems at times unable to grasp its power and its beauty and its magnificence. Nevertheless, the physical body is important as a temporary house in which these powers and these beliefs, these truths can be expressed. We must be patient. I think episode in many chapters of experience. Man mustn't be afeard of this. Man must not see himself just as he sees himself in the mirror. He's not just as he sees himself in retrospect in one existence. This is purely only a part of himself.
Yes, that's wonderful, darling. Marvellous. Thank you so much.
I don't know this marvellous.
I wonder what we could call the book now. Milestones to a Purity, or no, what did I think of now? Well, of course, All is One is very good, but that's been a title some time ago. I think it was W.H. Evans who used that title.
What about the immortal path?
The immortal path?
No, perhaps not.
But it's quite good. Well, yesterday, today, and forever, but of course that's been used so often, hasn't it? We'll have to think about it again next time. I wanted you to tell me again sometime how it is you're able to speak to me.
In what sense do you mean? The technique of
Yes, just a short one, yes. It's really, of course, your thoughts which are impinging, I suppose, on the voice box.
Yes, well, the whole point is the transmission of thought in society is purely, in a sense, an artificial communication. I wouldn't like people to assume that, for instance, it isn't me speaking. Of course it's me speaking, but not speaking under normal natural conditions as I would do when on Earth with my own physical body. But after all, on Earth, which is merely the transmission of one's thoughts, utilizing the vehicle of expression, which after all is merely the larynx and so on. We do exactly the same. The only difference here is that we have to use an artificial one.
Yeah.
In other words, that will reproduce our thoughts. But whether it will reproduce always identically our particular personality or characteristic of speech may well be at times, sometimes maybe not. It all depends on certain things, the atmospheric conditions, the health of the medium, the communicator himself, what power he has within himself. I mean, his personality, if it is a strong one, it will imprint itself in such a way that it will reproduce itself, even though it is done artificially. The whole thing depends on so many conditions being right at that moment.
Yes. But are you enclosed in the voice box, or...?
No, I wouldn't say we're
You're not
in the
enclosed?
voice box.
No.
But you see, it's as if you inhabit temporarily, not exactly a body as such, but something in the sense that has the reproducing organs. That is, it has the larynx, it has the vocal organs there, which mean that when one concentrates oneself into this, it responds. Of course, our problem is to manipulate this, and this by concentration, and at the same time to recapture memories appertaining to one's past, just to bring through as proof, as evidence when necessary, and also the message that we have, particularly if it is a message appertaining to our life over here, entirely different vibration. It is sometimes like trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time.
Yes.
It can be very difficult or very confusing. And even an old hand addict like myself, there are times when it is extremely difficult. And we have to avoid confusion. And confusion is one of our main problems, because often there are many other souls around whose thoughts are very strong, very anxious, of course. Many of them are to communicate themselves. And although we have law and order, of course, and we have some organization when this takes place, we must always remember that thoughts are living things. They're very powerful, and sometimes the thoughts of the medium or the thoughts of the sitter, such as yourself, and other people's thoughts of souls are hanging about and interested bystanders, you might say. If one is not careful, sometimes these thoughts can unconsciously perhaps even interfere with communication. It's very difficult to explain, but we have many things to contend with, and really to become a very good communicator needs a great deal of practice, a great deal of trial and error, and constant application of oneself to it, intensity of thought, intense concentration, and of course the more opportunity one has, better it is.
Yes. Oh, you're remarkable, isn't it? I think it's amazing.
Well, I've been doing it now for many years, and fortunately...
Still, there have been some long spells when we haven't.
Yes.
A year between sometimes.
You see, now you have really set up a link, see, by constant communication, constant sitting, makes it much easier for me.
Yeah.
But if there were a long lull, probably I would find it difficult to start up again. I would, of course, be able to, I'm sure, but you see, like anything else, if it is one has more opportunity to experiment.
Yeah. More.
Anyway, I'm very happy about what we have been able to achieve, now hoping for much, much more. That's what I'm really hoping for, that we shall, well, be able to have long, lengthy talks on all sorts of things, subjects.
Yes, thank you, darling.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Goodbye, Mickey. Hopefully marvelous.
It's marvelous, isn't it?
Yeah.
This morning.
Mickey didn't come at first, you know. That's rather unusual.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Douglas came in straight away.